Self-sufficiency kind of seems like an impossible dream, at least to me. And so I thought, what's the easiest things to become self-sufficient in? And I thought I'll do a list of the 5 easiest things. And these are things that could be easy to grow, that can be stored for year-round use, and that you could just wipe off your supermarket bill forever. Have you heard of the Dirty Dozen? I looked this up the other day. So the University of Wisconsin did a study on the amount of pesticides that's on fresh produce that we buy at the supermarket. They found that 75% of them have pesticides on them. And a list that they called the Dirty Dozen, which I guess that, the 12 worst offenders, 95% of those had harmful pesticides. If you're wondering how harmful this stuff might be, apparently they have the capacity to disrupt endocrine systems, the neurological system. They even found a neurotoxin in green beans. Maybe these pesticides are easily washed away. Maybe we don't consume them in large enough quantities to have an effect on our health. Who knows? But an easy way to dodge the problem entirely is just to grow your own food. It seems like there's a big health benefit to growing your own food, and there's obviously an economic benefit to doing so. But I reckon the best thing about it is just the way that it makes you feel. Last night my wife was cooking and she said, "Oh, can you go into the garden and get me some greens?" I don't know why, but it made me really happy just coming out here and getting the food. I mean, I could have gone to the supermarket and it wouldn't have brought me any joy. It's hard to say why that might be. I mean, maybe it's just sort of part of who we are as human beings. It's kind of encoded in our DNA. We've just done it for our almost our entire history, and maybe that's what it is, and we just feel happy doing it. We've got loads of cucumbers here. There must be like 10 of them just coming off this one vine. There's way more than we can eat. It's produced loads, but this isn't going to go on my list because it does take some effort. The problem with things like, there's loads of stuff like this that grows over the summer, like tomatoes and cucumbers, courgettes. You get masses of them, but they only come for, let's say, 3 months of the year. And then if you're going to eat them through the rest of the year, then you need a way of storing them. Some people are really good at this, and I've got so much admiration for people that pickle and, can things, but it's not something that I've got much experience with. And you do need a lot of stuff. You need space to store them. You need the know-how to do it. You need all of the gear, the cans to, put the food in. So I think it's something to aim for, but it's not going on my list. Here's a weird story for you. This guy just showed up yesterday, comes onto the property and just goes, "Oh, hey, do you want a chicken coop?" And so I said, "Oh yeah, all right." So he drove it up here on his trailer and gave us a chicken coop, which is pretty weird because we were talking for a while about getting chickens, so we just got lucky. But anyway, that's not going onto the list because it takes a bit of space, I suppose. If you're living in a city, that's not going to work. Plus, there's a bit of maintenance in looking after chickens, so I wouldn't say that it was easy. So yeah, not on the list. Anyway, we'll go to the fruit trees. I love fruit trees. I'm sort of obsessed with them. I think in terms of bang for your buck, in terms of how much time you put in and how much reward you get out of them, fruit trees are just awesome. I mean, I've got so many different fruit trees here. I've got loads of olives, I've got loads of guavas. This lime tree, it's just pumping out limes. Why would I ever buy a lime? There's just no reason to. But I'm still not going to put fruit trees on my list, and that's because you need quite a bit of space. If you want to get fruit trees that are kind of delivering fruit to you throughout the year, you need quite a lot of them. I've planted about, I think about sort of 60, 70, somewhere around that. So that's a lot of fruit trees. It takes up quite a lot of space. I think that with the number of fruit trees I've got, I think that I probably will at some point get to the stage of having fruit year round, such that I never have to buy it. But yeah, I wouldn't say that was easy. Another good option is nuts. This is a hazelnut tree, and I've also got a macadamia tree and a few almond trees. Good thing about nuts is that they store really well, so then you can eat them throughout the rest of the year. But I'm still not going to put this one on my list. The issue is that nuts take ages to fruit. Fruit's the right word, isn't it? You don't say nuts, do you? That'd be really weird. Fruit, they take ages to fruit. And so you buy a tree, I think in the case of hazelnuts, I can't remember what it is, but it's like 6 years. Sometimes it's 6 years or 8 years. So it's a real long-term thing. And so for that reason, I can't put it on my list. We'll start our list at number 5 and work our way through to the easiest at number 1. So at number 5, I'm going to say leafy greens. I haven't bought leafy greens for years. I just don't see the point. They grow so well. This is silver bee or Swiss chard. It grows really well here, kind of almost like a perennial. I mean, it's not a perennial, but that's been there for 2 years and it just keeps pumping out food. So that works really well for here. I also like Chinese greens a lot. Pak choy, I love the taste of it, but for some reason, whenever I grow it, it just grows straight to seed. I've never grown it that well. But tatsoi, on the other hand, another Chinese green, that does great here. So that works well for me. And I think that might not be the same for you. It depends which climate you're in. So I think it's a good idea to just experiment with which leafy green does best where you live. If you live somewhere cold, something like kale is awesome. Kale can withstand snow. It's really hardy stuff. So yeah, leafy greens, easy.
If you want to make your life even easier, go with a perennial variety. This is perpetual spinach. Plant it once and that's it. You'll have it forever.
Number 4, on a similar vein, I'm going to say lettuce. Lettuce does great for most of the year. I mean, it struggles a bit when it gets really hot, and it also won't grow right in the middle of winter, depending on where you live. But there are other alternatives as well. So things like rocket can handle a bit of cold. Endive, like that French lettuce, it's a little bit bitter, but that grows great. I've grown that in snowy conditions in the UK, and it did fine. So you can grow this pretty much year round, and then right in the depths of winter, maybe if you can't grow it, you don't have to eat it then. So I'd say that's pretty easy. That's going in at number 4.
Again, if you want to go for a perennial, you could try Turkish rocket, a type of arugula, or this is sorrel, which grows really easily and has a very strong lemony taste.
Behind me, it's a bit of a mess, but that's because I've been growing squash and pumpkins. Squash and pumpkins are awesome things to grow because you don't need that much space. You can have them in a little veggie patch and they'll just kind of like meander off on their own and go through the grass, and they send down tendrils so they can kind of access the nutrients in the ground, and they produce a lot of food. The other great thing about them is they're easy to store. You just pick them. I've been getting some butternut squash about this kind of size. You just pick them off, keep them in the dry, and that's it. There's no bottling or pickling or fermenting or complicated stuff. They just go in a dark place, and when you want to eat them, you cut them open and eat them. It just can't get any easier than that. And so for that reason, squash and pumpkins are my number 3 choice. These should probably be on the number 1 spot really, but I'm going to put them in second place. Potatoes. Potatoes are great because you can grow them pretty much year round, depending on your climate. We can grow them in every season here except summer. Even if you can't grow them in certain seasons, such as summer and winter, they store really well, so it doesn't matter. You can just grow loads of the things and store them. There's also a massive variety. It's kind of weird. We've got used to eating a very small number of potatoes, I guess because I don't know why. They probably just produce them easily for supermarkets, but there's an enormous variety of potatoes and sweet potatoes and yams. And I mean, I've tried New Zealand yams. Those are fantastic. Oxalis yams, I'd really recommend growing them. But whatever, find something that works well in your climate that you really enjoy eating. And yeah, potatoes are really worthwhile to grow. The only reason I haven't put them at number 1 is because you tend to eat a lot of potatoes and therefore you need a lot of space. So for the number 1 spot, I've gone for something that even if you live in a very small place with a very small garden, you can still grow it. If you're wondering why I've got the camera pointed at this bed with nothing in it except for a few potatoes from last year, it's simply because you can cram so much of this thing into this space. These beds are 3 foot wide. If you take 3 foot wide by 3 foot long, that's enough space to grow enough garlic for a family for a year and have enough to plant for the next year. I planted this bed out just the other day, and there's basically 2 types of garlic. You've got hardneck garlic and softneck garlic. I quite like softneck garlic because it stores so long. So softneck will store for an entire year. Hardneck, you're looking at more like 6 months. So I'm using softneck. I've bought some softneck, and that will probably be the only softneck garlic I'll need to buy for the rest of my life, simply because I can plant enough to grow and then replant in the next year. So in this bed, the spacing I'm using is about, I mean, probably like this much between each clove. So each clove then becomes a bulb, and that gives you enough room to pack in 5 in this 3-foot bed. So I've got rows of 5, each one spaced out, but kind of this far apart, something like that between each row. That means you've got plenty of space to grow the garlic. Not only will there be enough for a year for me and my wife, there'll be enough to give away to friends and to neighbours, and there'll also be plenty to re-sow for the next year. So for that reason, for me, garlic is in the #1 spot. I'm almost certain there's something really important that I've forgotten, and put it in the comments if I have. But also let me know what's your favourite thing to grow, what you grow a lot of, what works in your climate. Thanks so much for watching. See you next week.